Hi, I'm Alex Liu, and I'm excited to present our paper Shifting from Surveillance and Safety to Safety Through Noticing, a photo voice study with Eastside Detroit residents. This paper is co-authored by a team of researchers from the University of Michigan and a team of community organizers from Detroit Eastside Community Network. Detroit is the largest Black majority city in the United States, and it is a symbol of American modernity. With the ongoing dispossession of Black neighborhoods, the city's median income is about $34,000, which is about half of the state median. And particularly where our community partner, Eastside Community Network, is located, about 46% of residents on Detroit East Side live in poverty. Over the past decade, Detroit city government and the police department has expanded surveillance infrastructures across the city, such as real-time surveillance cameras, facial recognition, and gunshot sound detection technologies. These surveillance infrastructures are often justified by the narratives of promoting safety and reducing crime. Yet, under the regime of surveillance and safety, people and communities' viewpoints have been obscured and excluded in the conversation about safety. And this holds especially true for historically minoritized communities. Critical questions about what constitutes safety, whose safety should be considered, and when safety is achieved remain unaddressed. In fact, if we think about the regime of surveillance and safety, it really speaks to the modernist classification projects that allows institutions to see surveilled subjects as pre-existing and self-contained units for observation and analysis. Black feminist scholarship has urged us to foreground the racialized logic of surveillance infrastructures, where the very multiplicity and nuances of racialized lived experiences, ontological relations, and knowledge are reduced and overlooked. Under racializing surveillance, the means of promoting safety and preventing crime is also predicated on the processes of naturalizing criminality of Blacknesses while appearing to be objective and reasonable. If we think of it done Haraway, it is precisely the concrete gaze from nowhere embedded in the large-scale surveillance infrastructures that enacts the never-ending processes of classification and racialization. As such, our work looks into two questions. One, what does safety mean to residents in East Side neighborhoods of Detroit, and how do residents navigate safety in everyday life? And two, how do residents' practices and stories help us to rethink surveillance and safety conflation? We look into these questions through a Photovoice project we collaboratively conducted last summer. Photovoice is a community-based participatory research and a participatory action research approach based on the understanding that people are experts of their own lives. Photovoice advocates for asset-based perspectives by offering the space for participants to document and share both community assets and concerns through photography, and eventually identify community actions for change. Our photo boys engaged with 11 mid-age and senior lifelong Detroiters from Eastside Detroit neighborhoods with an average age of 65 years old. All our participants were Black, and 10 of them were women. The majority of them had an annual household income lower than $30,000. The photo voice activities consist of three main phases. In phase one, we conducted an onboarding workshop and an educational workshop where we discussed the history and ethics of photography, as well as some basic photo taking tips. Then participants had 3 weeks of time for photo taking based on a series of probes we offered. We broadly asked participants to take photos of what safety means to them, what surveillance means to them, and how they interact with surveillance technologies. During their photo taking, we also offer office hours and in-person check-ins to address participants' potential technical questions. After 3 weeks of photo taking, we conducted one-on-one interviews with each participant to go through all the photos they took and the stories behind each photo. Each participant chose 2 to 3 photos to share with the group. And finally, we conducted a group photo viewing and reflection workshop where all participants reviewed and discussed each other's photos, identified the themes, and community action. In fact, participants wanted to host a community event to showcase their photos to be broader community members who were not part of the Photo Voice project. Therefore, we collectively hosted a community-based photo exhibition. Please refer to our case study for more details and takeaways of organizing community-based events in participatory action research. Overall, residents' photos and stories demonstrated the intricate relations within their safety networks. These networks include not only human actors like their family members, neighbors, and friends, but also a wide range of non-human actors, including animals, plants, material objects, and spaces like community gardens. For residents, their sense of safety stems from these relations. In this way, safety is deeply relational and situational, and what safety means is inherently multiple, from achieving bodily autonomy in home spaces to avoiding threats and fear in public spaces to seeking peace of body and mind. To navigate and achieve the sense of safety, residents have to practice what we call everyday noticing. Building on anything's art of noticing, practicing everyday noticing requires residents to attend to the surrounding humans and non-humans. This visual process of seeing is a critical mode of residents' everyday noticing. As Miss Tamara told us, I know how things look over here. So if I don't see Miss such and such out after 10 o'clock, then I think, oh, is she all right? Because that's not normal how she do. Or I know that I got a neighbor that comes in at 10 or 11, they come in from work. So it's just awareness. You just got to be aware of things. In this way, everyday noticing is not simply about seeing or observing what's going on in one's surroundings and what's happening in the neighborhood. It's more of a process of looking out for oneself and each other. Many participants' photos and stories also illustrate how sound and the process of listening play a huge role in their everyday noticing. For instance, Miss Juanette's photo portrays uncut bushes and weeds next to an untenanted house across the street from her own house. She had been concerned for a long time that intruders could pass through this uncared for space without her seeing them. Even though the wild weeds blocked her view of space, one had told us that she often listened carefully to the trees moving and wind blowing. If somebody's coming towards her, she would be able to hear movements from the weeds and trees. While these weeds signaled some broader systematic issues faced by Detroit neighborhoods, one has had to compromise and work with weeds to achieve a sense of safety in this material condition. And one's practice of noticing can be viewed as a very manifestation of this conflicting relationality and the ongoing negotiation of safety within this relation. Therefore, everyday noticing is multisensorial, rooted in the collaborative looking out for each other and deeply situated in the local knowledge accumulated over time, or the knowledge of knowing what's right and normal and how they sound like or look like in the neighborhoods. The situated knowledge and the viewpoints embedded in everyday noticing contrasted from large-scale surveillance infrastructures, reductive gaze from nowhere. Even though residents' everyday noticing and surveillance infrastructure seemingly share the similar process of seeing and listening, local viewpoints rooted in lived experiences are replaced by viewpoint at distance, and local phenomena are removed from the entangled relations as standalone units for examination. Taken together, we argue that disrupting the gaze from nowhere requires the redistribution of the visible and sensible. This is to say, to trouble the dominant reductive visions embedded in the region of surveillance and safety, we really need to decenter and redistribute what's visible and sensible from the large-scale surveillance infrastructures. As an alternative, we push for the shift from surveillance as safety to what we call safety through noticing. As we have shown, safety through noticing opens up the linear boundaries around the notion of safety, and the multiplicity of the safety and practices of navigating safety, in fact, illustrate why equating surveillance and control with safety is inherently reductive and limited. Going forward, what does safety through noticing mean? First, everyday noticing is imbricated in lived experiences and lived materialities. It is simultaneously a skill for survival and an act for more than human care. Attending to the practices of everyday noticing could help us to scrutinize the intersectional material consequences brought about by surveillance infrastructures. And at the same time, it offers opportunities for us to speculate the possible relations and alternative material configurations in which new meanings of situated safety and ontological possibilities could emerge. And second, everyday noticing is a site of critique. It invites us to return to the local and hyperlocal in our design efforts, including the local situated knowledge, relations, and materialities. Indeed, the everyday noticing practices we observed in this Photovoice project cannot be scaled up, and they're not meant to be scaled up, but they become powerful counter-narratives to the pressing premises of delocalization and the ontology of separation, reinforcing our modern capitalist society. Through a more than human intersectional lens, we in HCI should be able to continue to make visible counter-narratives and lived experiences to thwart the hegemonic surveillance and safety and account for safety through noticing. And what we aim to do through this Photovoice project
is really aligned with Cisco. This will guide us to move towards imagining a new, more than human world that put the local and communal relationality to the fore and that no longer center on prescribed fear. Thank you. Please check out our paper for more details.